Today's Adulting 101 theme is basic cooking skills. So, today we're going to run over a few key things. If you're a little bit uncomfortable in the kitchen, these are just a few tips to get you started. Some of them you might already know, but hopefully you'll be able to learn something new. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to read a recipe. It sounds basic, but there's actually a few key things that can really set you up for success when you're starting cooking something. I'm also going to run over the timing of cooking, so how to time all the meals that you're juggling at the same time while you're cooking something. Some basic cutting techniques, and just running over some basic spices and how and when to salt something. So when it comes to reading a recipe, there's a few tips. The first one being to sit down and actually read through the entire recipe at least once, probably twice. This is just to make sure that you have, first of all the ingredients, that you have all the hardware necessary. You don't want to get halfway through making something and then realize you need a blender or a food processor and you don't have that. And to make sure that you know how much time it's going to take. So if you're making something else at the same time, then you know how to time that in conjunction with it. It'll also prepare you in case there's suddenly some recipes might call for you to also prepares you in case so some recipes might call for you to have to freeze something overnight or to marinate it, so that way you know what's expected to be there. When you read through the recipe, make sure that you have all the ingredients in the right quantities. So maybe you forgot to add something to your shopping list last time you went out and you actually don't have as much rice as you thought you did. So it's important to actually go through the ingredients themselves and gather them ahead of time to make sure that you have all of them in stock. Okay. It's also important to read a recipe so that you can do some of the preparation in advance. So if you need to heat up the oven or you need to prepare some dried beans or something like that, if something needs to soak ahead of time, then you can get started on that perhaps while you grab some of the ingredients or prepare other parts of the meal. Some of the common cooking terms that you might come across when you are cooking a recipe. So the first one is to saute something, and so this means frying something over high heat in a shallow pan with a small amount of oil or fat. This is commonly done with some garlic or onion or other vegetables. And to simmer something is when foods are cooked in hot liquids that are just below the boiling point, which you can achieve after bringing the liquid to a boil and then reducing the heat. So this is something that you're commonly going to do when you're cooking rice. To fold something is to carefully combine two mixtures of different thicknesses and weight into one smooth mixture. This is especially common in baking some recipes, so something like pancakes or waffles, you might have to fold the ingredients together.
Take that thing that's in your hand, and you...
If you say fold in one more time.
It says fold it in!
To blanch something is scalding a food, usually vegetable, in boiling water and removing quickly, then plunging into iced water to halt the cooking process. So this helps maintain some of the nutrients and gives the vegetable a really bright color. To parboil is partially boiling something, so you might do this with rice or potatoes. To broil is cooking by exposure to direct, intense heat to crisp or brown the top of already cooked dishes. So you're commonly going to do this in your oven, and it might be used, for example, with some meats or some pastas if you wanted a crisp brown top to it. And to reduce is to thicken and intensify the flavor of a liquid mixture by simmering or boiling the liquid.
So for this amount, it's just easy to do. Just smash them with the flat side of your chef's knife. Think of someone you don't like when you're doing this. It's very effective. All right, and then scoop them all up into a pile and rock your knife over and start mincing away. All right, so let's gather up all that garlic, put it right back in our bowl, and we'll use it in a minute.
You don't need to actually own or use a lot of different spices and salts in order to be a good cook. I think it's just about using what you have and using enough of it at the right time, and thinking about what might complement what, and just using those few spices effectively. It's also important to note that a lot of spices will go bad or lose a lot of their flavor over time. So, for example, if you have a lot of dried herbs, those can lose flavor over time. So it's better to have like a small selection that you use frequently, and just keep on top of those instead of having a huge selection that doesn't get used as often. It's also important to note the difference between spice and seasoning. So spice is going to add its own flavor to a dish. So if you were to add cinnamon to a dish, it would taste the dish would taste like cinnamon. Whereas a seasoning brings out different flavors in an ingredient. So this is like what salt does.